family give birth and get babies, right? But either way, we still solve this. Either way, even if it's for babies or for economic benefits, we still solve this problem better on our side of the house. Which means now I'll be getting on to, oh wait, sorry. Next response then, right? From LO, they tell you that tax is higher because you have to cater towards these immigrants. They tell you that it is a problem because of the fact that obviously public backlash is going to happen. People are not going to be happy. Like, why would you want to pay tax for someone you don't even care about, right? But we tell you that this is actually something that's beneficial to our case. We tell you that this tax is gone when you are actually allowing these immigrants to go work, because of the fact that when they are working, they are able to provide for themselves. They're able to actually get a wage, actual money for themselves to actually live. So there's no need for you to actually raise tax in a country because of the fact that these immigrants now have the platform to work. So we tell you these two main substantives, the fact that you want to increase birth rates or the fact that you are increasing tax, is something that we solve under our side of the house. And we tell you that under our side of the house, these two arguments that that side of OO is giving you is something that we actually solve much better. So now let's move on to my one and only substantive about how you get more economic benefits, right? We tell you the reason why economic benefits is related to birth rates is obviously because of the fact that the reason why these birth rates are a harm in the first place is because of the fact that there are not enough people working in the workforce, right? Why is this true? Because when you take a look at countries like Malaysia, where most of the time these people want to work in big corporate jobs, that is to say, they don't want to work in these lower paying jobs. That is to say, becoming a garbage man or being a cleaner in a certain area. Most of the time, people in Malaysia or citizens in general, citizens of a certain country in general, would not want to do that. Which is why, under our side of the house, where you actually allow these immigrants to take these jobs, you're actually helping get more people into the workforce, and you're actually filling up these spots, these spots in the workforce that are actually needed for a lot of things to go on smoothly, right? So the impact is then, under our side of the house, you actually have people that can work these jobs, and you can actually increase GDP at the end of the day. And once again, these immigrants are not obviously just tied to working these jobs such as being a cleaner or being a garbage man. No, obviously they have the right to also go take up jobs in white collar corporations. However, we tell you that it is more likely, because of these people being desperate for money, it is more likely for them to obviously want to opt into these jobs, which is why we tell you that it is something that is going to happen, and it is something that is going to benefit these people at the end of the day. Before I move on to comparing the cases, any POIs?
One more for me.
Sure.
So if you're trying to say that Malaysia is not able to support its own people like P40 and M40, how are you going to then say how it's going to be able to support refugees from Palestine which come in mass?
We tell you that when you literally are not giving them the opportunity to work, when you're literally taking away their rights to work and you're not giving them a proper wage to sustain themselves, it is going to be 10 times worse under your side of the house. You can't just say that because of the fact that you are going to be helping M40 people with big babies, you're suddenly going to be helping these immigrants who already exist in status quo. This is why under our side of the house, we prove to you that we are benefiting these people economically because of the fact that you have more people working in the workforce, and you also benefit you actually solve the problem of not having enough birth rates, right? Another extension to the economic benefits here, that right, this whole idea of public backlash, the fact that people are going to be angry because these immigrants are taking their jobs, right? We tell you that this is a pretty common problem in status quo, especially in Malaysia, right? My first speaker already told you how we mitigate this harm a bit by making policies in which these people in which these immigrants are not able to take rent, or these immigrants are also not allowed to vote, right? But another reason as to why it can still be beneficial, even if they go into the workforce, is that when you have more people working in a certain workforce and a certain organization, you are going to make this organization bigger, right? Naturally speaking, this corporation is going to become more successful and more bigger. When it becomes bigger, you have more opportunities and you have more slots into the higher corporate rankings. That is to say that if these immigrants actually take these certain jobs, that is to say maybe white collar jobs, what they're actually doing is they're also benefiting the people that are already working there. They are giving these people who are already working there an opportunity to climb the corporate ladder because of the fact that they are helping this company increase their GDP and make it bigger, right? So now, with all that substantive out of the way, let's compare the cases thus far. first, let me tell you why we're winning this debate at this point and why we can still win over closing, right? It's because we give you two very main benefits. The first, practically, and second, principally. Practically, we've proven to you how we get you better economy. You get economic benefits because of the fact that now these immigrants can work. And this is the problem that you're actually trying to solve when there are low birth rates. But even if you did want more babies, like what our position is trying to fight for, we still tell you it's possible under outside of the house. And in fact, it is more possible under outside of the house because of the fact that you have more people in this certain country, right? The only response they give you then is to say that, hey, what if harassment and rape is going to happen? Look, this is very unlikely and it's a very circumstantial point. But even in a world where people are not, even in a world where there are no, even in a world where these immigrants don't exist, this problem can still occur, right? So we tell you that, then we give you a second argumentation about principally, like my first speaker stated to you. We told you it is our moral obligation as humans of humanity to do so. So we tell you, we take this debate because number one, our arguments are the most important. If CG wants to give you more argumentation, they must prove to you why it's important for it to have any value. So for all those reasons, we've dealt with the entirety of opposition and we've proven to you that our case is going to be far better than whatever CG can come up with. For all those reasons, side with opening government.
All right, thank you, DPM, for for your remarks. Now, I would like to invite the DLO to close out the opening half. The floor is yours. Here. Do remember to turn on your camera too.
Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Now, this is how I'll structure my speech. I'll start with a few rebuttals, rebutting the Deputy Prime Minister. Then I'll move on to a few arguments to further support the motion. First rebuttal. Side opposition, side government, everything has been that I've heard was been talking about how this is going to bring economical benefits, and thus somehow along the way is going to help with the birth rate side. However, we tell you that that is not true. In status quo, third world countries do not form too many jobs, right? Instead, they suffer from a load of jobs. They don't have a capital, a lack of jobs. They don't have a capital. There are always immigrants competing for these jobs, and it's going to look like these benefits will not come to materials that they can even continue to help continue living in today's social standards, living standards. And even so, even if a side of government tries to say, even if you were to buy that, right, bring all the economic benefits and whatnot, it just begs the question in my head. Is it even guaranteed that these immigrants are going to suddenly participate in intercourse once they have the money, right? Because to me, there are a lot of things or ways that they could go back to their own countries, to go back and help with their families or whatnot. Okay, finish with rebuttals. Moving on. You are rejected. First argument, how embracing these entrance of immigrants are just going to make the state worse. Why is this true? Because of these different interests of these different stakeholders. Right? Interest of immigrants. Their interest was to make money, right? To make money, to earn profit and income. And imagine that immigrants in large numbers suddenly come into one state. And then the interest of these residents themselves. The residents of these states, what they want is like shelter, food, and water, obviously. So how is this going to make state worse? Third layer is the cultural difference itself, because there are obviously going to be a lot of different things that they are unfamiliar with, and there's going to raise demands for changes, and these immigrants are totally going to make it sound like they have the right to do so because they believe they are the vulnerable people and whatnot. And in
POI?
fact, rejected. And in fact, I think cultural difference is also one of the biggest factors why birth rates are declining in status quo. Why is this valuable? Because cultures or traditions or religion stuff are sensitive issues. Right? They are the things that give moral compass to people. There are things who differentiate people to make right or wrong decisions and whatnot. And in fact, religious issues are also one of the reasons why suddenly British comes in to Malaysia and uh, and colonize our country because in some way they believe that it's their religious duties to um, to spread or to spread their religion and whatnot. So a few impacts here. In fact, impacts. Uh, this looks like it's just going to raise more conflicts and clashes in these states. It looks like 100 immigrants are clashing with 100 residents over certain issues and whatnot. They're going to challenge the traditions and
POI?
religions that exist in the rejected, and thus it's not even going to help with this declining birth rate. Second argument is about how embracing these entrants of immigrants is going to put pressure on public service. How does this look like? It looks like healthcare and education suddenly receive large number of people. Also looks like transportation and demand suddenly and housing suddenly receiving large demands or rents or whatnot. So why is this important? Because this is important because this lowers the productivity of these services. Looks like suddenly healthcare or hospitals are lack in manpower or people to continue carrying out their services, and looks like residents are also facing disadvantages of or hardships just because of these existing immigrants. I have nothing more to say. I am my speech.
All right, thank you, DLO. Now to now that is the end of opening half. Now, to open the debate for the closing half, I would like to invite the member of government from CG. The floor is yours. You're here. Also, a reminder to the floor to do try and accept at least one POI per speech.
Hello? Am I audible?
You are, but you're a bit echoey. Can you try reading the motion so that we can do a test of your connection?
Okay. In states with declining birth rates, this House will embrace the entrance of immigrants.
It's a bit soft towards the end. Can you read it again, but in a little bit higher volume? Is that possible?
In states with declining birth rates, this House will embrace the entrance of immigrants.
All right, beautiful. All right, go ahead.
Now I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, as the first speaker of the the closing government bench, I would like to do 2 things. So firstly, I would like to give some rebuttals against the second speaker of the opposition. And second of all, I would like to extend the debate by the points given by the opening government. So now, moving on to my rebuttals. The opposition has mentioned about how immigrants would take away jobs from locals, but they won't take away jobs because governments will always prioritize locals and their own citizens before giving chances for jobs to the immigrants or refugees instead. And the second speaker of the offered position also mentioned about how it makes the state worse because of the cultural differences. And our solution to that is by giving these immigrants to have a community where they have their own same ethnic groups so that they are able to feel comfortable and feel welcome, whether even though they're in a different country. Now I would like to start with extending the debate. So the opening government mentioned about how embracing the entrance of immigrants would benefit the country's economic growth. It benefits the country's economic growth because it increases the employment rate of a country, and it is also accepting more people to work. Therefore, it will increase the productive capacity of a country, and that can help increase in supply goods of a company. And it will also contribute to an increase of consumers buying those products. And more workers also increase the what increase the quality of the product. So that also leads to a higher consumer rate and also an increase to the GDP of the country. As employment rises, more people will be able to work and help increase the supply chain. And also immigrants usually come to a country to find jobs, so they are eager to work. So you don't have to worry or have doubts about them doing an excellent job or not because they are willing to work. Now, moving on to my second extension. Embracing the entrance of immigrants benefits immigrants' life as a whole because immigrants will get a job, they will receive higher income or wages, and they experience a better standard of life. Let's say they came from a country where they were facing war or their government was mistreating them, like how the Bangladesh government, they were reserving government jobs for their people, and also how they were killing those young protesters who are just trying to make their voices heard. What better way is for your country to be facing a problem of declining birth rate and a person from another country experienced a horrible life to you both can basically help each other out. You're employing someone who is facing problems and while you are experiencing declining birth rates. And won't those immigrants feel happier? Won't they feel like they're finally accepted and welcome after those long and exhausting experiences of war and mistreatment by their government? It also result to a diverse environment. So also it will, well, you are accepting immigrants from different kinds of countries. So it will also result into immigrants introducing diversity into the country. For example, like cultures such as people from Bangladesh or people who from Palestine, where they can allow their goals and beliefs to flourish into the country. Is there any POIs?
Yeah, sure. Okay. How are these immigrants going to feel happy if they are going to be stuck in an unfamiliar environment where they are being discriminated against, alongside having to deal with the economic issues that are having a job?
Sorry, can you repeat that again? I couldn't hear it clearly.
Never mind, 66.
Okay. Now I would like to conclude my speech. So we strongly believe that this House should embrace the entrance of immigrants for countries that have declining birth rates because it benefits immigrants by giving them higher wages and better hospitality. And it also benefits the country's economy because they are allowing more people to work, which increases the GDP and it also encourages diversity to flourish. Thank you.
Alrighty there. Thank you, Member of Government, for your speech. Now, to continue the debate, I would like to welcome Member of Opposition to open the case for CO. The floor is yours. You're here.
Before I begin, am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Right, yeah. So I prefer verbal POIs. Okay. Sorry, let me time myself. The proposition thinks in a fantastic in an idealistic world where they have the resources to help these refugees, they have a savior complex that they can help. Why? Because they're essentially gambling their own people's well-being for the sake of foreign communities who bring greater burden to the nation. So we question if the nation that is trying to help these refugees is truly the nation that I strive to serve for. Now, as the member of opposition, I would first respond to the member of government, provide my own extensions and new materials in such. Now, to respond to the member of government, they tell you that that to avoid any types of work being taken away from locals, they will prioritize these locals to take these jobs in the first place. But in that case, how can these refugees intend to gain the income and financial stability that they need with the cost of living to care for when the cost of living for these children is high, when they are not prioritized in the first place? Next, they tell you that they will provide a better standard of life for these refugees as compared to their own nation in the first place. Now, the problem with this statement is that they are focusing on an issue that is not up for this debate, because this debate is about the decreasing birth rate in a nation, not about the problems of these refugees in the first place. Now, moving on to the extensions, we believe that that to an extent, these immigrants target economical opportunities over building families when they're going into these new states in the first place. Because firstly, the incentives for these immigrants to go about to these nations is firstly to gain jobs and a better work life. Now, let's look at the characterization of the immigrants itself. These people will most likely have families back home where they would want to support these families and be with the lack of jobs in their nation. Therefore, it is unlikely for them to actually build families in the nation that they come to in the first place. Now, even if they do build families in these nations, it does not ensure a stable society, and I will explain why later on. Now, the proposition note panel, that proposition did not tell you the root cause of decreasing birth rates in the first place, and they did not tell you the solution for this. Now, let me tell you that the root cause for birth rates declination is that it is that local citizens struggle with their own financial situation. Why is this the case? Because firstly, the cost of living in these nations have increased, and the education support for financial handling is lacking in the nation that they're trying to strive for. So now let me provide you with a minor counterfactual. We see that the government should focus on the well-being of their own people, and fix issues regarding financial stability instead of trying to save other nations while not prioritizing their own people. Yes, I'll take your PRI.
Why exactly is helping Palestinians who are dying in war a bad thing? And secondly, how are you going to suddenly help all M40s and B40s and get them have kids?
I'll focus on one of your questions only. Now, we see that the government should should focus on helping M40 and B40 children because it is their own people, instead of trying to focus on other refugees that would burden the financial situation of the government and burden the other societies that is actually local to the community. Now, weighing on the metric scale of stability and likelihood, we see that from side proposition, they try to implement a law which helps both sides of the issue, the locals and the refugees. However, it is unlikely for these refugees to actually build families and increase birth rates, since the financial cost to actually provide for their children is lacking in status quo. Now, from side opposition, we believe that by focusing solely on our people and providing jobs and opportunities and resources for the people for M40s and B40s in the nation will bring a more higher stability in the nation, which leads to an increase in birth rates, since they are confident that they can provide for their children for the better of the nation. Now, moving on
Why?
to new materials coming from side opposition. Firstly, we believe
Why?
that the certainty for them to increase in birth rates is slow because it hinders on the fact that they have that their only sole reason to come to these two nations is to support their families back home. We can see that, for instance, Bangladesh is coming to Malaysia as a single as solos because they intend to support their families back home who need their help in the first place. We see the Indonesian maids come to Malaysia in order to help their children back home in Indonesia. Now, moving on to the second new material, we see that there is a problem when foreign culture is integrated into these communities. Why do we say so? Now let's look at two divergences of these immigrants, right? Immigrants who engage with locals in order to build families. This is a low certainty because, as we have said before, they already have families to provide for back home. Now, even if this is the case, where they do end up with a local in order to build families and increase birth rates, there's low chances of them to actually provide a fair financial situation in the family and provide for the family itself.
Why?
Now, because they lack the resources and the financial that they need. Now, second divergence is when immigrants engage with other immigrants in order to build families. Now, why is this a problem? Because it intends in a cultural issue. Because the integration of foreign culture brings harm to both the refugees and the community itself. For example, now, why is this the case? Because firstly, there's a differing beliefs in between both sides. We can see that in the US, when there's immigrants from China and Mexico who holds conservative beliefs, they intend when the US supports LGBT wholeheartedly and these families themselves are against it, then there is a lack of equilibrium between these two sides, which will end up with an unstable society in the future. Now, these immigrant parents who are highly conservative in nature would come to a nation who is developed in some cases like the US for a better lives. Now, when these countries are strongly against certain beliefs, such as Muslim families being against same-sex marriage, then in this case, would you want, as the Muslim family, to want to raise your child in an environment that is highly against your own beliefs? And with that, side with opposition.
All right, thank you, member of opposition. Do a reminder to the floor. Do time yourself, or even or if you don't time yourself, do take note of the timestamps that do pop into chat. All right, to close out the debate for government half, we would like to invite the government width. The floor is yours. Here.
Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good morning to members of the floor and to Mr. Speaker and to my beloved teammates. Today, I would like to do 3 things. The first is to repair my Prime Minister's arguments, and second is to rebuttal all the points made by the opposition bench, and lastly is why we win today's motion. So First of all, my first speaker has talked about how by allowing the entrance of immigrants in declining birth rates of the country, it will benefit the country by a lot. And what I mean a lot is that it not only does it increase employment rate of the country, it accepts more people to work. And once you accept more people to work, people they will increase the economy's GDP and increase their productive capacity and make sure that they can supply more in the country. And the second is that it helps to improve the education and training of the country because of how the GDP is increasing. That will affect and result into improving education and training, making sure that these children get the education that they deserve. The second argument that my first speaker has brought up is the benefits of immigrants' life as a whole. So immigrants will get a job as they come from countries that are suffering in wars, will experience better for themselves, and they will be able to support their family back home or their families that came with them, together with them as a whole family in a new country. So now I would like to move on to my rebuttals. The first rebuttal is that the opposition stated two points. The countries do not have the financial ability to support these people. So if they do not have the financial ability to support these people, how are they gonna provide incentive if you don't even have financial ability to support your people in the first place? And you say that the majority of the people not being able to support the family planning and all that is also included, because how are you going to help your country when you don't even have the financial ability? That we think that people come from different background, religious, ethnics, they won't feel comfortable being in a new country. So our mechanism is that you can gather around people coming from the same backgrounds, the same cultures, for example, Palestine, and those who share the same belief, to make sure that they feel like they belong to a community. For example, Malaysian right now, as you can see, they're trying to take in new refugees from Palestine, and we share the same belief. For example, Malaysia is an Islam country, and they are also an Islam country. So we share the same belief, which means that they will feel welcome in our country. But our mechanism, we are already being, mechanism is already being practiced, which is distributing the income from the rich until the poor. People who are more rich, who earns higher income, will pay much more compared to lower income groups. So that will help to make sure that these poor people will be able to help themselves and make sure that their financial is stable. And you said that they might not build families in a country because of how they already have a country to support outside of the country, which is their own country. But what about those people who came in a whole pack of family in another country, in a new country? They are working stably here, and they try to expand their families by making sure they can marry someone here as they are trying to live here permanently. And the root cause of low birth rates is firstly because some people may not even have the financial aid to support their families. But when we accept immigrants in a country, they are already helping increase the productive capacity and increasing jobs for local people by, for example, when an immigrant come into the country, they are making sure that there are more jobs created, more jobs being open to everyone. So once these jobs are open, it will, by doing this, government revenue increases, which could be used to spend it on advancing technologies or education, or give incentives to lower income families. So when you give incentives to lower income families or groups, you are already providing and encouraging them to build families as they have money to support themselves now. And it will not take away a job of the local, because as I said, the country will always and prioritize the
local people compared to native people. As you can see right now, even in Malaysia, most people who are native, they're not working in a very high income job, high income paying jobs. They're working in constructions. They're working as something that pays lower than the normal jobs that you see. Most people, for example, Bangladesh, they work in construction. So you don't have to worry about them stripping away jobs from local people. And by improving education and training, you're training people to gain better lifestyle, to make sure that in the future they don't lose jobs, they don't get themselves unemployed. Once they get themselves unemployed, that's when they start losing their financial stability. That's when they start to not want to have birth rates. So this is one of the root causes of why birth rates are so low over certain countries. This is because we don't provide them what they need, and we are not training them to be the person that can gain money in the future. For example, kids right now, some kids are not even being subsidized by governments, so they cannot excel. They don't know what they're doing, and they don't know what they can do in the future. And by that, you're reducing the employment rate in the future. Because of that, they don't work, they don't gain money. Because they don't gain money, you won't be able to create a family in the first place. So to conclude everything, we believe that by allowing immigrants, they will help to introduce more jobs, introduce more benefits to local people as well, and as the country as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Government Whip. And now to wrap up the entire debate, I would like to invite Opposition Whip to deliver their speech. The floor is yours. Here.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Focusing on saving these refugees, focusing on trying to provide a much better life for these refugees, for these immigrants, without actually prioritizing your locals first, especially those who are actually having their own financial problems, is cruel in a country. But before that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to all members of the floor. So, as the last speaker of today's debate, I would like to do some clashes throughout today's debate and give my own rebuttals for all the arguments presented by the government, and give a little summarize from the opposition side. So the first clash is which side actually increased the economic benefits. So since this is the one that the government side is trying to fight so much, so in our role, we believe that even in the first place, even if don't actually accept these refugees in the first place, it could actually increase the economic benefits. Like our country is actually slowly increasing economically. So by accepting these refugees, these immigrants, and so-called let them work in our country in the first place, it's going to actually add up burden to our country. Because, okay, let me give a narrative. Comparing to when we let immigrants into our country and let them work for our economic status, and at the same time support their life, at the same time supporting their life. So it will increase the economic benefits, but at the same time it will only maintain there as we are supporting them at the same time. Compared to a world where we are only solely focusing on our locals, on our citizens in working, where they work fully for themselves and doesn't need their government to actually fully support them. So by slowly, it could actually increase our economic status decline. Okay, and next, which side actually increased birth rate? So just like my member of opposition already stated, there's no guarantee, there's no certainty that by letting in refugees and immigrants will actually help a country in increasing their birth rate. So so it's clear that there's no particular reason actually on why we have to let these refugees, immigrants into our country in order to increase birth rates. So moving on to my rebuttals. Okay, so first, um, okay. So first,
You're
the reason why the government decided to let in these refugees, these immigrants into our country is to improve their life. Yes, it is true that we are trying that we when we let them into our country, we are trying to improve their life and whatnot. But that's not the reason for today's motion. In today's motion, we both our side is fighting for how we're going to increase the birth rate of a country. So there's no certainty or guarantee that a country could increase their birth rate by letting in immigrants or refugees. The government side hasn't yet able to
PY.
clarify in that thing. Okay, and then next, they
Go on.
mentioned how
For that.
decline, and they mentioned how immigrant work. So when immigrants work, they have to pay for their taxes, and they are able to contribute into the workforce. So how they haven't yet to actually clarify on how this is actually going to increase the birth rate, and that could also lead to a much more restricted job opportunity for the locals themselves, as they have to actually fight with the immigrants and the refugees for work. And then they stated how locals like give these refugees, like the refugees and immigrants take the low paying jobs so that the locals could get the much more better jobs. And yet it doesn't prove anything, means how they didn't prove that how actually the locals prefer to work in the low paying jobs instead of higher one. Why do they feel like refugees and immigrants should work in the low paying jobs and whatnot? They have failed
PY.
to prove that. Yes.
We tell you that the reason why these jobs are something that people don't want to go into in society is because people don't like it. So when we are allowing these immigrants to work, they can fill in these jobs that don't have any people working in it. That is the benefit we're trying to propose. How do you do any better?
So when that happens, actually, if that's the case, then if people don't really like the job in the first place, so there's no reason for the jobs to be there in the first place. So these low-paying jobs that you're trying to stay is for example, the construction work and whatnot. So in our world, we believe that these jobs, maybe majority of people won't like it, but minority of people, for example, those who don't have a certificate, for example, those who actually doesn't have a proper education, for example, these jobs are actually for them. Either like it or not, these jobs are for them. So instead of letting immigrants take these job opportunities away from them, we could just give these job opportunities to the locals who are less unfortunate than the others. So next, they say about how by letting immigrants and refugees take their jobs, we're actually prioritizing locals. So like it's not a problem, but yet they failed to prove on how that is. And yet the government side failed to prove on how by letting refugees in, immigrants in, it could increase the economic benefits than just letting the locals work. They haven't yet to clarify anything actually, and not to be cruel in the situation, but it isn't even the country's problem in the first place to like support these refugees and immigrants if the country itself is actually not having a very stable financial situation in the first place. So, and then just like my member of opposition stated, they failed to give the root cause for the declining birth rates in the country. So, then this is about there's not enough financial to support the people, so that's why we acknowledge that. So we are trying to not let these immigrants into our country at the first place. So sum up the arguments from our side. So since we acknowledge there's not much and resources for these refugees, it's much better for us to actually focus on our people than letting these resources going to them. It's much better for us to improve the life of our citizens first before we are trying to improve the life of the refugees and immigrants. And another reason is because of culture shock. Like for example, like they have different beliefs. So like these immigrant people is coming from China or Mexicans, so they have this very high conservative nature in a way they believe in nature would come to the US, for example, for a better life. So when that happens, we believe that US is a free country itself. So this could cause a lot of culture shock for these people and make them feel uncomfortable in where they're living now. So in order to increase the birth rate actually without even reflecting the declining birth rate of our country, we believe that it is not necessarily a need to let these immigrants and refugees into our country. In that case, please start with opposition. Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for the engaging debate. Give me about a couple of minutes to deliberate. In the meantime, virtually cross the floor, virtually shake hands, virtually get to know each other. You guys know the deal. I will be back soon. Yeah.
That was a fun debate. Thank you guys. Very intense.
Thank you
Cool,
guys.
cool, cool, cool. Very good, very good.
All right, hi everyone. Roll call. OG,
Here.
all right. Oo,
Yes, we're here.
all right. PG, CO, CO.
Here.
All right, okay. Give me a sec. Let me arrange my papers. Okay. So my deliberation will go as such. Wait, before that, is this still recording? Mr. Akmal, is the room still recording or is it not? Can someone confirm that for me? It's not, right? All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. All right. So here's how my deliberation will go. I will start firstly